Hello, professionals. My name is Rico Aladdin, and I'm the founder of Professional Lunch. Today, we have a very important guest with us in the studio for a very special professional lunch. I have the CEO of Eventide Senior Living Communities here with me, John. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rico. Glad to be here. When you said very important guest, I kept looking around the room. Are we missing somebody? But thank you.
No, that's you.
Very kind of you.
That's you. So, John, this is your first time on Professional Lunch.
It is.
Please introduce yourself for the Professional Lunch audience.
Well, Rico, my name is Jon Riewer. I'm president and CEO of Eventide Senior Living Communities, based right in Moorhead and with locations throughout Fargo-Moorhead as well as Devils Lake and Jamestown, North Dakota. So glad to be here.
Wonderful. Our topic today is really to talk about your career journey. You are leading an amazing company doing very important work in the community. And also because this show is about helping young professionals find a career path. So we will talk about some of the advice, how they can find success with your company or with others, and also more importantly, sustain that success. And, at the end of the show, you will share some advice on how they can launch their careers also. So we already get the welcome out of the way. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, we were talking about families before we started the podcast. I grew up in a large family as well, oldest of 13 children. Mm-hmm. Just down the road, down Highway 10 in a small town, Frazee, Minnesota. And my parents, we all had jobs growing up as kids. And my mother happened to be the director of nursing in a care center there. Home after school to our first job when we were 15, 16 years old, it was the care center. And so early, I didn't realize at the time, that might end up being a career path for me, but just enjoyed, it was like an extended family and enjoyed not only the residents, but the people who worked there. And to this day, enjoy those same things. That my best days are when I'm in the sites on campus, talking to residents, talking to staff. So went to Concordia. So just, a homegrown here. Had a great 4 years there, and then had the opportunity to work out in the middle of North Dakota, which I highly recommend to anyone. Yeah. And like most of these stops, was so fortunate. And I think that there's an awful lot of luck involved with any of these career paths. And fortunate in the sense that I had a even strong leadership that I got to work with on those sites, whether it was a longtime director of nursing, because you can imagine being placed out into a very remote area and you're now in charge. I remember the first day sitting in that chair going, you got to be kidding me. Why would they allow me? Well, what you learn very quickly is symbolically you're in charge, but being a leader is something that you have to prove your worth day over day going forward. And fortunately, I had people that helped me along that journey, especially early on, develop those skill sets and understand what it takes to be humble and know what you don't know and be ready to ask questions, even though you're, again, with the title, they know also that you don't know everything. And so that was helpful along the way. And so Kansas, North Dakota, then on to Cokato, Minnesota, and then ultimately found our way back home like so many do, and just blessed to be back here. It's 20 plus years now at Eventide, and we love being back home. So
Wonderful. So now you're currently the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
Is Eventide your first major company that you work for, or had you held other jobs before that?
Yeah, I would say in the sense that it's when I started Eventide, we were a single site in Moorhead, and we've been steadily growing over my tenure. We've had opportunities to expand here in Fargo-Moorhead. Back in the day, we were just the Moorhead campus, and we've had a chance to grow that. So I always tell people in my 20 years, although it's been with Eventide, I feel like I've had 4 or 5 different jobs, because as the company grows and evolves and changes, so is my role. And so there's never been a dull moment. It's always been an opportunity to reinvent.
Okay. So are you the founder of that?
No. So I should
Okay.
mention a little bit.
Okay.
Eventide is a 501c3 not-for-profit.
Okay.
And so I report to a great group. You expect me to say that, but I truly mean a great group of volunteer board of directors. So my boss is the board, and I always tell people it's a great job, but I am a temporary steward. So much different than somebody who owns their company. I'm here for an indefinite amount of time, and then I'm gone, and somebody will follow me.
Okay.
And so that's something I never forget.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now you've been the CEO, I understand, for 2 decades.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay, 20 years. Walk me through a day, a typical day.
Yeah. Well, again, the job has changed
Okay.
obviously as we've changed, but I think we're kind of more back to normal relative to the pandemic because a day during the pandemic,
Yep.
we could spend hours talking about that. That was a much different pace. Not necessarily faster, but different.
Mm-hmm.
But a typical day for us includes, team meetings, lots of communication. So while we have about 2 dozen or so people that work in our home office,
Mm-hmm.
we have about 1,100 people that work across our sites
Wow.
in across the 5 communities that we serve.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big part of our plan all the time is not only the planning,
Mm-hmm.
but the communication and the work on executing the plan. So that's really what it amounts to. And again, we're a group that works fairly lean, so we're very cognizant of meetings about meetings and avoiding those. And
Mm-hmm.
so the good news, we're a flat enough organization, close enough group in proximity
Mm-hmm.
with to each other that those it's not an email, it's not even a Zoom call. Typically, it's in person. We wander over to somebody's office, have that communication, and then typically, you can imagine how that rolls out. So
Yeah.
whether it's large group meetings that we have with all of our site leaders, or smaller departments and that kind of thing, there are still a number of meetings, but we try to keep those very concise with tight agendas and respect that our best time is spent serving people, not having meetings.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, I have great respect for what Eventide does in the community because, at this stage in life is really challenging, somewhat difficult
Mm,
time for, the people that you serve. So tell me about the company itself,
yeah.
about Eventide.
Yeah, well, I think predominantly people see us as a nursing home type provider, and
Yeah.
we do have nursing homes, and
Okay.
that's a big part of what we do. But Eventide has evolved over the years to also include so many other things.
Hmm.
Most don't know, I think, that we collaborate with a competitor, Bethany, and another organization to have Ethos Hospice and Home Care that serves Fargo Moorhead, Grand Forks, Bismarck. And so that has been also part of our platform of services. And that's a kind of evolution as well as the senior housing product.
Hmm.
So, back in the day, I didn't see myself so much in healthcare, but I always wanted to run like a really nice hotel or resort.
Hmm.
And essentially, some of what we're doing at Eventide has that hospitality feel to it.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think my my dream has been fulfilled in the sense that a lot of what we do is around the hospitality model. So we do a lot of senior living,
Hmm.
breaking more into now the what we call the active senior, the 55 and older. Maybe they don't need as many of the assistive services and healthcare,
Hmm.
but are interested in congregate living that allows some resort type amenities, but also doesn't require home maintenance and yard and lawn, all those things that come with owning a home.
Yeah.
So it's been a great opportunity, and we continue to look for opportunities to expand that because what the world will expect from organizations like ours going forward is to continue to be more creative. So some of the old solutions, if you think about even when I started 30 years ago, predominantly the opportunity was you needed care, you moved into a nursing home. And now you look at how many different layers and options there are, and that'll continue to grow not only because of consumer choice, which is a primary reason anything happens,
Hmm.
but also because society, there's limits to what they can afford, and we have to be more creative as providers of those services to keep coming up with new and innovative ways. Technology is going to play a part of that, amongst other things, and the ability of limited staff. I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to have to be more creative in terms of what we're doing and how we're serving people going forward. So,
Wonderful, wonderful. So, you were talking about that a little earlier. So, is Eventide regional or
yeah, I'd
national?
say more regional.
More
Yep,
regional.
yep. So
Okay.
we're within a 200 mile. Devil's Lake's the furthest reaches of the organization as we speak today.
Okay.
That could likely change. I mean, one of the things we're seeing in the field, like anything, is
Hmm.
that scale matters.
Okay.
It's getting tougher and tougher. We have to be smarter with our resources,
Hmm.
and so some of that is what's prompted our growth to date, and will continue to, I think, make us growth oriented going forward. Is that we need that scale, we need that efficiency because the dollars are not growing.
Hmm.
We that there's a finite limit to that, and we've got to continue to do everything we can as efficiently as we can, and some of that comes through growth.
Okay. Wonderful. So, I one of the things that is fascinating to me is uh, when I'm talking to professionals is talking about the challenges, but also talking about the rewards of that of whatever it is they do. So now, when it comes to what you do at Eventide, what are some of the most challenging parts of that of caring that comes with caring for seniors?
I'm chuckling because it's a fantastic question. And
Yeah.
why don't I go ahead and answer the next one?
Okay.
The best part of what I do
Hmm.
is also the same as the most challenging part of what not I do, what we do,
Okay.
and that's people.
Yeah.
So we don't make widgets.
Hmm.
We exist to serve people, and we serve people by employing people.
Hmm.
We serve people who have family members that are engaged in the care that we deliver.
Yeah.
So my best days always involve interactions with people, and our toughest days
Hmm.
always involve, because not everything goes right when you're dealing in a people-oriented business.
Yeah.
Not everything always goes the way you want it to,
Absolutely.
whether it's on our end,
Hmm.
whether it's on the issues of the people we're serving. You can only imagine how many different things come up and how many issues arise. And so I would say the answer to both of those is it's the greatest part of what we do, and it's also the toughest,
The toughest
if that
part.
makes any sense at
So,
all.
I mean, I was gonna ask you for the most rewarding part of
Yeah.
it. So,
And I mentioned
you,
earlier, my best days, so we work with a great group, and we're headquartered in Moorhead.
yeah.
Still to this day, my very best days are when I'm on campus
Hmm.
and I get a chance to sit down and have coffee with the people we serve, the residents in our care centers, our senior living buildings, and visit with staff who are doing the God's work on the front line,
Yeah.
and hearing directly from them. And again, those also include some of the most challenging times too,
Yes.
because they have things they need and
Yeah.
and things that we have to barriers we have to remove to help them do their jobs better, and people who have needs in life that we have to continue to address.
Yeah. So, when it comes to the seniors, how do you select them? Walk me through the process a little bit.
Well, I don't know that we select them as much as they select us.
Okay.
So typically, it in many of our services that we deliver, it might be somewhat necessity driven. So at the point that they need skilled level of care, I mean, there's a health event that's gone on, whether it's recovering from a hospital stay or something else, they truly need assist to help from all the activities of daily living that you can imagine, from going to the bathroom to having meals cooked for them, whatever it might be. And so that's very necessity driven. But as we move further into that continuum, a lot of what we do is also provide that congregate living model, which is allowing others. I mean, too many times, the biggest thing that we combat as we grow older is isolation from our friends and others. And so one of the things that we learned through the pandemic is that, yeah, well, there's risks around everything, especially many people living together in an apartment building.
Yep.
There's also really undiagnosed things about it. Really created a lot of mental health issues because of how alone people felt, how isolated. And so I think we came out of all of that with a higher society appreciation for the ability to be closer to others who share life experience, who share our point in life and experiences and everything else. And so much of what we do is creating those environments that just allow people to be closer together and create friendships and a purpose and other quality of life issues that can only come with some of the things that we provide. So
Wow. I mean, that makes me want to follow up on this because if you are serving this group of people and the staff, so what about your staff?
yeah,
How does the company prepare them mentally and
yeah.
perhaps physically to really do such a great
So
job?
I think we do a really good job. And after saying that, I felt there's so much more we need to do.
Okay.
They are the most critical. I mean, we can build beautiful buildings, Rico.
Yep.
It doesn't mean anything unless you've got a culture and a team that really takes care of business. And we're so fortunate in our campuses to have that. And that doesn't happen because of dumb luck. It doesn't happen because it just worked out. We hired the right people. Culture building is something that, as an organization, we work really hard at. And again, I'm not here to tell you we've mastered anything.
Yeah.
But in terms of training and in terms of support and in terms of even the benefits we provide to our staff, and how do we create opportunities. And so I would tell you, money's never the most important thing. But as an old boss, he said, it's still well ahead of whatever comes next. He used to joke. But we do need people to have good living wages, that help them support their families. Because if things aren't right at home, it's really hard for them to be right at work.
Yep.
And so I don't want to sound parochial. It's not our job to, to be big brother overseeing all of our staff, lives.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an important part we play in making sure that they have the tools they need to do their job, but also the wage and benefits and everything they need to live a quality life and support their families at home.
Wonderful. Well, man, I love that. I think I can keep this conversation going because it's, it's one of the things that I always, I've said that many times on the show. There are companies that are doing work that are, work that is significant in the community, especially for those that are less fortunate, those that are less connected, those that, that are most vulnerable. And I think your company is, doing something that is remarkable when it comes to helping the seniors find a home where they to live some, part of their lives. So now, this show is about helping young professionals who are launching their career. So we're gonna switch that a little bit to talk about that. As the president and CEO of Eventide Senior Living Communities, I can only assume that you have got to a point where to hire people, to maybe fire people. So how can young professionals find and sustain success, whether at Eventide or at different companies?
Yeah.
Because you've been with them for 20 years, that means I think that calculated as a success for me.
And let me address the first part. Yes, hiring people is always a key element of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And even that unfortunate back into that, the firing of people or freeing up their future or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
We take that very seriously. And I think there's the easy way out isn't the right way out. And so I would start with the premise that there's a finite group of people who are of the age and ability to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then within that group, the people who choose healthcare is even more selective. And so as a company that needs those people as part of our mission, we have to be ever more committed to working through before we just cut somebody loose.
Mm-hmm.
What's our role in this? What's our ownership and accountability of their success? Meaning when things don't work out, did we have the right management in place to develop them, to train them, to allow them to make mistakes and grow in their job? So I think gone are the days where people were viewed as widgets and we get rid of some and we bring some new. We can't look at the world that way anymore. We've got to hang on to all of the people that started with the premise that I want to be in healthcare, I want to serve others, because there's not an infinite group of those people around.
Yep.
So if they've met that criteria already, it's on us to work even harder to make sure that they stay with us or stay within the field, because there's just not enough of them.
Yeah.
So I would tell you from when I started 30 years ago, there's a much different commitment to making sure that we're not giving up on people until there's just no other way, because we need everybody. And so usually you can look a little deeper and find that there was in some way something we could have done better, some way that we failed them, that we need to continue to evolve and support them differently so that they can do their jobs and find success in healthcare.
Yeah. So, firing is really the last.
Well, sometimes it's necessary, but I would tell you, if it comes to that,
that means you have used all your efforts.
And there's some things that are obviously, that you can't work around if there's, if there's any kind of infraction that involves any kind of physical act, the employee things are not uncommon, and so that just we can have no tolerance for that.
Yep.
Because our safety and security of our staff and residents has to come first, and so there's things that come up, but typically, again, if it's everything else, there's ways that we can work harder to develop and help them grow in their role and be more successful going forward. So
yeah, wonderful. So if a young professional is listening to this right now, they say they want to have a career at Eventide, what can they do to be successful there?
I think one of the first things we see as a hallmark of success, or when I say success, is success. Somebody that we know is going to be with the company for a while, for a long time, is that they find a friend at work. Now, that's a pretty general statement, but I would say a friend, dare say a mentor. So some of the best employees we have, because it's one thing to say, Rico, welcome to Eventide. My name's John. I'm the president and CEO, and I support you every step of the way. But the fact is, the person who's working alongside of you is far more important in your journey, far more important in your mentorship than I could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for us to keep grooming those mentors within all of our locations, because as a new person coming into our organization, you're going to make some pretty quick observations about culture, about who's there to support you, how you're supported. And so one of the things, back to the piece of advice,
Mm-hmm.
find that mentor, find that person that you know you can look to for whether it's technical things that you need to know about your role, all the way to listen about, how things are going at home, to whatever else. So we know that a high level of success is that they find a friend at work.
Mm-hmm.
That when you have that, the rest kind of comes
Naturally.
easily after. Yep.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned find a mentor, because professional lunch is at the phase right now where we are trying to build a mentorship community, a platform, if you will, for young professionals to be able to connect with more experienced one depending on their interest. And so, looking back over the last five or years or so, without mentors, I would not be talking to you today. Without people,
Back at you.
yes, who invest in me, regardless of how it may look, but they really take the time to groom me, to help me become the professional that I am today. And so I owe a great deal of gratitude to the mentors that I have in my life. And you mentioned mentors. I assume you have mentors
Yeah,
also.
I've had them every step of the way, and I've been fortunate. We talked about my first job, but
Mhm.
in even today,
Mhm.
even today, I've got. And what's interesting now, at age 54,
Mhm.
typically the mentors in my life were people who were more experienced, and they had more of life's hard knocks and could share those with me. And again, sharing is not imposing that experience as a hammer.
Mhm.
It's putting it out there and sharing some of their things that they learned from the hard way, and hoping that they can avoid those missteps for you.
Mhm.
So that they're using that experience. When you want to look for the right mentor, you want that person who is not using it to, like I
Yeah.
said, a hammer, but using it
To
as,
impose it
like you
on
talked about
you.
your father.
Mhm.
He was there. He was offering you that advice, take it or leave it.
Mhm.
It wasn't do this or learn from the, I mean, it was, I'm going to tell you how it worked for me. And
Yeah.
maybe the situation's different, but here's what I know. Now it's interesting.
Mhm.
At 54, my mentors sometimes are younger than me, and I
Mhm.
see creative energy. I see a different way to view the world. I look at you, Rico, the platform that you're using, and very untraditional in terms of what I knew. How you got to people and let them know what you're all about, and
Mhm.
that you're open to to being a mentor and doing all those things. The platform you're using here is very different than anything I'm used to. So I look to people like you, much younger than me, saying, I think they've got a different perspective, and so
Mhm.
it's an interesting transition even for me.
Mhm.
I would also say that age, as you age and gather that experience, anybody that's in our roles wants to share that.
Mhm.
And again, not as a boy, do this or beware, but
Mhm.
more as, man, I'd love to. And by the way, at some point when I've retired or been asked to leave the company, or however it works out,
Mhm.
I want to know that we talk about legacy, right?
Yep. Yep.
And the legacy isn't buildings that get built, because those come and go and those change and do different things. Who are we putting out into the world? Whether it's our kids
Mhm.
or whether it's our mentees that, we're grooming to take over for us
Mhm.
someday. And so, um, I'm not waxing too nostalgic for you, I hope, but at the same time, one of the key things of the 10 or 15 years I've got left in my work life, that's the stuff that's important to me now. Who
Yep.
are we grooming to take over next?
Yes.
And so any young person listening to this podcast, know this. People want to share, and people want to pass that knowledge on and help you succeed,
Yep.
because a big part of a leader's work is preparing
The
for
next
the
generation.
life that comes after when
Yes.
they're done. So
Wow, wonderful, man. This is. I said that many times on this show. This is why I have professional lunch, talking to people who can, you know, you said something that is very, very important. And sometimes when I meet with professionals, they may not have the intention to write a book, but they are willing to sit
mm,
down with someone and pass their legacy,
yeah,
pass some, some of the experience, share some of the experience that they have
yeah,
learned over the years. And I think sometimes that is the most important thing. you would be surprised how much you would learn sitting down and talking to somebody for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot from their experience. And I think that's something that, maybe we'll have to revisit and talk about this, because if anybody's talking about mentorship, I want to talk to them, because I can't create the mentorship community alone.
And I think people see mentorship as some kind of formal process that you have to sign up
Uh,
for. It just doesn't work that way.
Yep.
It's very organic.
Mm-hmm.
It can be frequent conversation. It can be infrequent. I mean, but you have, to your point,
Mm-hmm.
those folks listening on the podcast that are younger, they have to look in those unconventional places to find those mentors.
Yes.
And the other thing I'll throw out there, serving the people that we serve, imagine having access to 1,100 mentors that we serve every day in our seniors,
Mm-hmm.
and having life experiences. And albeit maybe they're in different career paths and different fields that they've worked in,
Mm-hmm.
but just life experiences. We're not talking about mentoring just for careers. We're talking about mentoring in life.
Mm.
And so even when I've had that board chair or that coworker that I looked up to and said, boy, this person's really looking out for me.
Yep.
It was never just about the job.
Mm-hmm.
It was looking out for me in life.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. This is really good. This is good. So, and I've said that before. Professional lunch is about giving young professionals a window into the careers of those who are successful, right? And so, what do you want others to learn from your professional journey?
Oh boy.
Mm.
A patience is a virtue. I don't have it, but I'm told it's a virtue. So let's start with the things I wish I were better at.
Okay.
Patience, and that can be a learned skill, I think, maybe.
Yep.
And I remember being younger and thinking, oh, this has to be done now. And now and you get a little age and experience, and you understand how quickly 5 years goes, how quickly 10 years goes, how quickly 20 years goes.
Yep.
And it is sometimes a race that is slow and steady, and it's wrought with cycles, ups and downs. And so, the old adage, get knocked down twice, get up three. I mean, that's so true.
Yep.
And you appreciate success because you've had the failures to go with them. And I've always, I think anybody would agree, I've always learned way more by stuff that didn't go my way than the stuff that did.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what we're talking about. That is a fact. And so, so I would just be open. It's hard to, I remember being younger, and active listening is something I really, to this day, have to work at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just the inability to keep a focus and not just not just hearing, but listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a tendency, you'll see this even in the podcast, you won't even finish the question. I'm leaning in, I'm ready to give you my response.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I continue to work at. And so just know where your strengths, where your weaknesses are, and the ability is keep playing on your strengths. In your case and mine, I think we're great communicators. We enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
But we could also name our weaknesses, and we have to continue to try to work. It's like basketball. I'm watching the other day. If I'm right-handed, if I can go to my left, it gives me some other options. And so if you can bring that weakness up, mitigate that, but also never quit playing to your strengths. And everybody's got different ones.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh my goodness. So the next question is a question that I ask a little over 250 people now. It's part of it's part of my research to write the book. How can student make the most out of college? And so I want to hear your take on that.
Yeah.
So how can students make the most out of college?
A great question. I think you could ask 10 people and get 12 answers to this, but I'll start with my experience. I loved Concordia, and I didn't realize how much I'd love it from the liberal arts perspective, which meant I went there to get my degree. I went there to learn healthcare administration, but it was all the other stuff that was also teaching me lessons about life and how to think differently. So let's just start with that being the most important. When you're 18 years old and you're off, whether it's college or whatever it is you're doing, one of the things that you're doing is you're developing a way to be open in your think differently, be able to be curious and see things in a different light, because any of us grow up with biases and different things that we think are true because that's how our parents saw life. And so the ability to get out and meet different people coming from different backgrounds and be curious and ask questions and develop, develop our own perspective on things, and then understand especially as you age, that perspective is going to change
Yeah.
because experiences will do that to you.
Wow.
So college is a great opportunity to not only learn your craft, but also to be exposed to different ways of thinking. And even if you don't subscribe to all of it, try, like you said it earlier, be able to understand and be empathetic to why people feel differently about. And if we had more of that today, wouldn't that change a lot of the
Yeah.
problems that we're encountering?
Wonderful. Man, this is good. This is really good. So, advice for young professionals, and I think you cover some of that, but at the end of when we get to at the end of the show, I usually ask,
Hmm.
what advice do you have for this young man, this young woman looking at, listening to this podcast, uh, based on what you've lived in your career?
And
With,
it might sound cliche, but I have right now a junior in college and a freshman in college.
okay.
I'll give everybody, for what it's worth, what I think both my wife and I try to impress upon them. Don't do anything for money. If you do, and don't go to college, don't do any of that because you think that what you're doing is going to get you financial rewards. And that the old adage is true. If you do what you love, you'll never worry about making money. That'll happen. So that's the advice we give to our kids. And then be curious. So be out there, try different things. It's easy. We all want to lock into how we're going to make our living and how we're going to live our life. But there's so many lane changes along the way, and just be open to those and be open to the opportunities. So my oldest son is taking an internship, and I said, an internship isn't about you impressing the people you're going to work for because they know you don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
The internship is an opportunity is to be able to try to see yourself in that role or doing this, and understanding, kind of where you want to spend your time. Because, boy, life, I'll just say, I've been fortunate. Life is a joy when you're doing what you want to do.
Yes, that's true. I can testify to that.
Yeah, right on.
So that's true. Oh man, John, I've had so much fun doing this interview today, and we talk about some really cool and important things, especially the part about mentorship, and that's something that I'm gonna circle back to you at some point to talk about it a little bit more, because I need all the help that I can get to create this platform for young professionals to be able to connect with mentors and learn, because I truly believe that a lot of professionals may not write a book, but they might be willing to share some part of their experience with you, and that can happen through official or unofficial mentorship. And I think sometimes it's the best way when the relationship can happen somewhat organically, and naturally. So that
Well,
helps.
back at you, Rico. I in prep for the show,
Mhm.
naturally, and I told you I discovered you because I was going down I saw some of these and I thought, this is a creative, non-threatening way
Mm-hmm.
for even a 54-year-old guy to see some insights into
Yeah.
how other leaders do some things.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't limited to 18 to 22-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is really creative and out there and non-threatening in a way that we can all learn from these conversations. And there'll be other people say, well, that interview wasn't for me. That wasn't quite, but there's you kind of pick and choose what serves you. And so credit to you. This is a really creative, different way of doing it. And I love it. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate you being on the show today and to talk about what you do in the community. And again, I must tell you that I happen to appreciate people who are doing things for those who are either less fortunate, or for those that are in the most challenging time in their lives. And I think that you're not only doing that, but you are you are serving a group again that I think that I get to see the joy in their face by simply bringing them a bag of people that are the seniors at our church. I usually volunteer to bring them, like from the food pantry, take a basket of fruits or vegetables. You can see the smile on their face, and giving what you do, I can imagine how much of a difference you are making in the community.
Well, thank you. And it's our team, and again, credit to our team. And thank you for highlighting the work that they do, because it is, we use it, we shouldn't use it as often as it is God's work, and I truly believe that. So thank you for recognizing that.
Okay, so we get to the last few words of the conversation. Any last few words?
Well, back to the mentoring. I would just say, take charge of this opportunity. And nope. Question. I always say question, asked, and answered.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got somebody out, call me up. If you think I'm the person that I've done this so many times.
Mm-hmm.
A half an hour where somebody that's thinking about healthcare administration or wants to, and it's interesting. I think what I can do, and I've spent many hours talking to classes and students,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember being that student and sitting in that class going, well, Riewer's a good guy, but he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And if he can do this, I think there's a chance I can. And that still is valuable because
Yep.
you have to be able to allow these people that are coming behind us in these roles to be able to see you and say, I can see myself doing that. And that's really what mentorship is all about. And then taking that interest not only in their career, but just their path in life. And that is true mentorship. And look for it. You'll find it in places you wouldn't expect. So be open to that.
Wonderful. Oh man. John, thank you again for all the points that you make in this conversation. So, now we're gonna have to make a deal because it cannot be just one episode of Professional Lunch. You have to come back maybe.
Well,
sometime.
if you're that desperate, Rico,
Yes.
you give me a call. All
Okay,
right?
no problem.
right.
I will definitely keep that in mind. I will definitely keep that in mind. So thank you so much, John, for being on Professional Lunch today. It's such a pleasure to have you here for this episode of Professional Lunch. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rico.
Wow. Now, if you have not followed Professional Lunch on our social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, and LinkedIn, I invite you to do so because we want to bring you great guests, great content every week because that's what this show is about. So, and find out how you can support Professional Lunch because we are a nonprofit as of today. And so we relied on guests who come onto the show. We relied on friends and others for us to continue to bring you the best content that we can. So find out how you can support us. If you want to support an episode of Professional Lunch, you reach out to me and you can do that. You want to support half of an episode, reach out to me and then we can work it out. So we need your support to keep bringing you the best guests we can possibly find, like John, our friends today here, to bring you the best content that we can to help you in your professional journey. Now, this is the part that I tell you, it's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day. John, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
That was fun. Thanks, Rico.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yes, so now, let me step down.